Hey there, Plant Girl here. Do you ever wonder if I actually use those products that you'll see me promote sometimes on my channel? Just so you know, I do. Sometimes companies, they contact me. They want to send me their products. I generally go through a lot of back and forth with those companies before the product is sent. They have to commit to me that I can use my own wording, my own thoughts, my own opinions on the product. And I tell them I'm going to use it for a while before they get a video put out about their product. And if I don't like it, I don't like it, and that's what I'm going to tell people, or if I'm not sure about it, right? So sometimes they decide not to send me their product, and that's fine. I never take money from those companies, but I do take the product. And the only way I make any real money off of those videos that I do is through my YouTube channel and through Amazon links. If I link it and people purchase it, I get a small commission. But you know, it's still, you wonder, that is, I'm still getting free product, I'm still doing a video. Well, this is one of those products I got, was it a year ago now? I showed you this RayGalax, I don't even know what to call it. It's like a hydroponics grow light. It has like a vaporizer, it has a clock, it has a lamp. It's supposed to have an air cleaner, though I just don't know how to know if it's cleaning the air, and I never did hear it, which I said in the video. There's no real good way to know how that works. It does a lot of things anyways, and I said even on the video I think that it was seemed kind of gimmicky, but I just kept using it, and I keep it in my office. I've had this fern in it for a very long time, probably. Is this what I planted in that video? I can't remember. It's been in there a long time. It's grown quite large. I bought it as a smallish plant, and it's reached the maximum extension of this light here, and it's just I'm having trouble keeping it getting enough water out of this. I think it's just too big of a plant for this pot now. So I thought I would plant it up into something a little bit larger with a little more soil space. And I thought this poor little wire vine, it's just not happy. It's not happy with me at all. And I thought maybe something like that system over there would keep it with more consistent moisture, more consistent lighting, and maybe it would just be happier with that. I keep that vaporizer thing going all the time, so maybe that would make it happier. Because right now it's just like so sad looking. So sad. So these are both indoor plants. Even though I'm out in the greenhouse today, it's the end of November, and just have a beautiful sunny day so I can be out here working and make my mess out here. And it's going to be messy because this wire vine is just dropping leaves everywhere. And so is the fern now, because it's just outgrown its spot, and I just can't keep it wet enough. But that's the project today, is I'm going to actually just swap these two plants over. I think the wire vine will be happier in this smaller container with all the moisture and humidity and the lights right on it. I just think it'll do better in this RayGalax. And I think the fern has just outgrown this space, and so it's going to have to live without being so babied and pampered like this machine does for it. So if you want to know more about this RayGalax, I'll link the video where I took a closer look at it. But really this video is just about, I just have a couple of houseplants that aren't super happy anymore, and I'm going to swap their positions and see if that kind of brings them a new life, because who wants this sitting in their house on display? Not attractive. Okay, so like I said, all I'm going to be doing is just swapping these two plants around. I have a bucket here that I mixed up the other day, and it just has a combination of a couple of different houseplant potting soils. I've added some vermiculite and some perlite just to adjust. I didn't like how heavy those soils were, so I just wanted to add a little bit more lightness to the mix. And there's actually a little bit of a kind of grower's mix, mostly peat-based mix in it too, just because I had overdone it with the perlite and the vermiculite. So that's all this is. Hopefully you can see kind of the consistency there. It's holding moisture nice. It's a little bit cool because it's been sitting out in the greenhouse. So hopefully it doesn't shock the roots of these plants. But I don't think it's too cold. I think it'll be all right. So we'll just power through here. So got our soil. The first thing we're gonna have to do is just kind of pop the growing part out of this thing here. And you can see like the water reservoir is right dry, and that's because I just can't keep it wet enough anymore with the roots in this fern. So it has a little wick that goes down into there, but the wick is still wet, so it hasn't been dry for too long. But I think just that little bit, it's just going to be kind of a one size bump up in pot, I think, for the fern, and one down for the wire vine. So it's not a huge difference, but I think it'll be a good move. So let's see if I can just lift this fern out of the pot. See the roots on there. It's nice and healthy. Oh yeah, there's a little thing. Just a minute, let's peel this off. This is part of the RayGalax to keep the soil from growing through. I wonder if I need some sort of new fabric for that. We'll put it in there, see how it goes. But lots of roots on there. They're looking healthy and nice. I think it's just too root bound. So that can just sit there like that in that big chunk. I'm going to set this little fabric back in here. Oh yeah, that's the wick. Okay. So there's holes here. So this is the main part I need to get covered with this little fabric. So I think I can reuse it. Probably the next time I go to grow, I'll have to use... This might be the perfect application, actually, for these little grow bags that I don't like, because they let the water through, but they don't break down like they were supposed to or touted to. Maybe I'll just put a fresh thing in there and then I won't have to worry about it. See if I can get this snips. I don't have scissors out here. See if I can get the snips to cut this. If I can, we'll use this fabric. So I think it's basically what was in there. Yeah, I think this will be just the right product to put in the bottom here. Oopsie. If I don't completely destroy it. Well, that wasn't quite perfect, but I think it'll work. The main thing is to get it over those holes in the bottom. So it does that job there. Save the other half for another day. Okay, so let's try and get this wire vine out of here. Let's see what's happening with it. So you can see the roots haven't really grown out much on it. It's still pretty much in the shape that it came in its nursery can there. I don't know much about wire vines, so I'm not sure if I should just trim it back, if that'll encourage it to flush more growth out the sides here. Like, it still seems like it wants to grow, but it just doesn't seem happy where it is. So I'm going to fill this with some soil. It looks like just a little bit at the bottom and then around the sides is what I need. Set this guy in here like this. So kind of set it towards, so it's going towards the back of the thing. Do I want it coming forward and out? Probably. Let's turn you around. Let's kind of top up the edges. Let's see, I can just push the soil down. Oh, you can see that. So I'm just going to make sure it's secure enough that, you know, it's full and it's not just going to be void of soil there. Make sure the roots are packed in. And I can fill it pretty close to the top because this actually gets watered from the bottom. So the soil can go up pretty much to the top. You know, normally you'd leave a lip for watering, but the water is coming up through this little wick, so kind of like self-watering, I guess is what it is. It's not really hydroponics, but self-watering. And I don't even know if they still sell this, if it's still available or not. I'll put a link if it is. But, so what do you think? I'm thinking, I mean, even though there's nice growth down here, there's not much up here. So what if I even just try and trim them back to that point? Seems a shame. I might try and stick that in water and see if it'll root. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know a whole lot about wire vines, so but there are a few of these that just look awful. So I'm just going to follow back to where there's a leaf or some growth and just cut off these chunks like this that just look like dead vine. And just try and clean it up a little bit at least. And then hopefully that'll encourage it to grow more. And just be a nicer looking plant, because I really like wire vine, but I don't have a lot of experience with growing it. And I'd like to see it do better than this. So, that took a lot. I could take this one back, but it has such nice growth on the end and has a few little bits trying to grow along the stem there, so I think I'll leave it for now. But there's that. So I need to rinse. I got dirt down these little holes in the sides here, and those actually lead to, this one leads to the water reservoir, and this one over here leads to the misting chamber. Just try and run some water down those holes. It should run right through and rinse that soil out. There. Now there's not soil down those little holes anymore. Try and rinse some of the dirt off that little wick. And I'm going to set it, I'll set this back inside the RayGalax, and I can set it back up in when I get in the house, but at least that part of it is done. Actually, I can see some little bits of fern that got knocked down in there, so set this wire vine out of the way, and I'm just going to rinse the inside of this out a little bit too. May as well while I have it out here. And now I'll pop this back in here. So make sure the wick goes down into the water reservoir. That down there. I'll just set that there for now. I didn't bring the cord out, but so that's not going to be staying here. It's got mud all over the top of it. But now I'll be able to put this light down, lower it down, so this should be getting good consistent lighting in the house for several hours of the day, and hopefully that will encourage it to grow healthier. Do you think? It's a real hardwood kind of cutting. I don't know if it would root or not, but these little bits here on the edge are soft, so I'm just going to set this on here for now so I remember to take it inside with me, and I'll try and put that in water. If they root, I'll let you know about it. So now I have a big mess here. Oh, let's put the wire vine tag in there. Creeping wire vine. Full sun to part shade. Medium water. Average to well drained soil. And it's supposed to get 30 to 60 centimeters wide and 10 to 15 centimeters high. So leave that there for now. Got that sparked in. I think I'm just going to put fresh. This isn't really that used of soil, but I don't know. should I put a little bit of fresh soil in? I think this is probably fine because ferns don't want a lot of heavy nutrition anyways. Can you see what I'm doing here? So I think I'm just going to leave the little bit of soil that's left in here from the wire vine and see if this fern will, before I even put the fern in, I'm going to groom it as well because it has all these little scraggly bits coming off of it. A few dried out stems, just because it just wasn't getting enough water anymore because it's just too big for that pot. So I think if I just kind of groom it up a little bit here, it'll look nicer, make less mess in my house. Just do that real quick. There, so I think that's looking better. Maybe a couple little bits left in there, but much better than it was looking before anyways. So let's get this wiped out of the way a little bit here. And then I left most of the soil from the wire vine in here. I'm going to see if this fits, slides down. No, not quite. So take some of it out. It's just putting a square into a round space here. So just take the soil out to try and get it to be a little thinner along the sides, and then a little flat bottom there. And then we can stick it in there. And now it has an extra, you know, a few centimeters to an inch of space around the outer edge that it didn't have before. In most places, I mean, it was square, so the corners come out to the edges, but for the most part, it's more room and it's a little bit deeper than the pot it was in. Now, I do need to leave a little bit of a lip now because if I water from the top, you don't want that water to just pour right off the top and out the sides of the pot. You want it to be able to soak in. And a little bit of this fresh soil to just kind of top dress. A little bit of nutrition in that soil, that fresh soil mix that I have in the bucket here, because the bags said they fed for like 3 to 6 months, depending on the brand I had there, I think it was. So a little bit of nutrition, but not a ton. Like I said, ferns don't want a lot of extra nutrients, or it can cause tip burn and things. And a lot of fertilizers have salts in them, especially the non-organic fertilizers, and that can cause burning of the plants as well, especially in things like ferns. So all that stuff that I cut off and the extra soil in that, I'll just send to my compost bin. The fern is going to have to adjust to its new home. It's not going to have that same misting and humidifier on a timer that it's had for all that time, and it won't have that perfect lighting. This is going to go in my living room, so I have a bright south-facing window. This won't be right in the direct sunlight, but it'll be in a nice bright part of the room. And I do have a cool mist vaporizer on that same plant shelf with these plants where I'll put this fern. So it will get some extra moisture when that's running, but I don't always have it on, and it doesn't run on a timer like the one in the RayGalax does. So this plant will have some adjustment. Hopefully it does well. I'll give it a good drink when I take it in the house. But I think that fern, well, just getting it kind of groomed up there just did a lot for it. It looks way better. I love this cute little coffee mug plant pot. But I think it looks better. It's in more proportion. I think it'll have more room to grow and hopefully keep the moisture it needs now. So the last thing I'm going to do is something I do whenever I repot like house plants or bring new plants into the house, is I'm going to take these little nematode packs, and if you saw me pot up my coleus cuttings last week, I think it was, then you've seen me do this before, but I'm just going to take these little balls with nematodes in them in there. I'm just going to sprinkle this around the soil. And now I didn't use a lot of new soil, so these shouldn't, oopsie, I'm dumping these everywhere. They shouldn't have a lot of eggs or fungus gnat eggs or larvae or anything in them, because I'm not using a lot of the new bagged soil that I have here. But I just find whenever I use new potting soil out of the bag, doesn't matter what brand, I always just seem to wind up with fungus gnats. Even when the bags say they have product in them to keep fungus gnats at bay. So I always just put some of these little things, these little nematode things in, and then I just always throw a sticky trap in. I never used to use these sticky traps. I used to think these little traps that went in your plants were just really gimmicky things. But you know, they really do make a difference with the house plants, where, you know, like on my shelf where I'm growing a lot of seedlings for outside, I can just hang big traps. But for house plants, I mean, you don't want big, ugly, sticky traps hanging all over your house. And this, I can just stick it in there, put it at the back of the pot, turn the pot around, and I mean, unless someone's really examining my plant, they're not noticing that trap back there. And that'll just get rid of any adult fungus gnats that might be hanging out in the soil right now. And then the nematodes will take care of the any eggs or young fungus gnats. I think this particular nematode actually deals with thrips as well, if that's an issue. I'm going to do the exact same thing with the nematodes and the sticky trap on this plant here, and then I'm just going to take them back in the house and set them up. All I have to do is put the fern on the shelf and water it in nicely. The RayGalax will be a bit more work because I have to set it back in its place, and then I'll have to reset the clock on it and to get it filled up with the water and the sides. But it's not a huge deal to do that. I haven't done it in a while, and it's like 4 buttons that control everything, so I'm probably going to have to find the instructions and get that figured out again. Okay, so I have 2 house plants all repotted and ready to go in the house again. Hopefully they'll both be happier in their new homes and grow nicer for me, because I think this is what they needed, is just that little bit of a change in environment to make them both healthier and grow better for me. So hopefully you enjoyed this video, and let me know by clicking the like button, or if you're not a subscriber yet, maybe hit that subscribe button while you're over there, and we'll see you in the next one. Oh, and if you want to know about the RayGalax, I will try and find the video that I did on it and link it for you down below in the description. Thanks for watching. Bye.